Don Jastad, and I'm here to discuss the crosscut saw. It played an important part of my life. I learned to fall timber with my grandfather on springboards, a crosscut saw, and an axe. And everybody in my era of kids, we all had to cut firewood with a crosscut saw. The chainsaws weren't around, so I've got a pretty good background in it. It played an important part in history. It was part of the reason that we have a country. We used the crosscut saw and the axe to fall the trees to make the lumber. The golden era was between 1880s and 1930s, and that's when the crosscut saw and an axe really shone. Clearing trails is really important in the backcountry. A lot of the areas, like the wilderness areas, you can't use a chainsaw, so this solves the problem. They're a great tool. Everybody should have one. In fact, no home should be without one, really. The focus of this program is how to use the crosscut saw safely and effectively. It's a supplement to classroom instruction and field work, and it's very important to be certified. This is a bucking saw, and it's important to understand how it cuts. We have 2 rakers and 4 cutters, and this particular one is a perforated lance tooth. It has a reinforcement between 2 of each cutter. What happens is the teeth are offset slightly and sharpened, so when they go down the cut of the log, they score the wood, and these rakers come back, they're chisel-like. They chisel out a nice ribbon, and we call them noodles. And when you're sawing with a good saw, it's really quite a thrill. They're just like saws that sing. It has 2 holes in each end, a straight back, and is heavier. It still has the same type of arc on the teeth as the felling saw, but they are designed specifically for bucking. That's why they're heavy. The straight back is designed to add more weight to the saw. It makes it easier for the bucker when he's bucking logs to get more control of it, and they're stiffer. Let's compare the 1-person bucking saw to the 2-person bucking saw. The 1-person bucking saw has a D handle on one end along with a supplemental handle, or you can use a supplemental handle on the other end to make it basically a temporary 2-man bucking saw. The 2-person bucking saw has 2 holes in each end for the handles. It also has a symmetrical curve to the teeth, and it's very, very, very beneficial to the controlling the saw in the wood. This is a felling saw. It has 1 hole in each end. It has an arc to the back. It's lighter, and it's a lot easier to carry in the woods. It's designed specifically for falling timber. Because of the arc in the back, you can drive wedges in without worrying about hitting the back and just damaging it. The field crew would choose a bucking saw over a felling saw because it's stiffer and heavier and can be used by 2 people or 1 person. Select the right tool for the job. While I'm heading out in the woods, I've got a bunch of limbing, brushing, bucking, and felling to do, so I'm going to choose a crosscut saw and an axe. Those are the best tools.
Ensure your safety and the safety of your co-workers by being prepared. Before heading out to do crosscut work, you will need a job hazard analysis, an emergency evacuation plan, an approved first aid kit, and personal protective equipment and clothing. While long-sleeve shirts and chaps are required for chainsaw work, they are optional for crosscut saw work. A crosscut saw is always used in conjunction with other tools: axes and pulaskis, wedges, bucking aids, lubricants and solvents, and shovels. Good work techniques involve safety, planning, and physical ability. Be sure to take what you need. When transporting saws, sheathe them to protect them from being damaged or causing injury.
You got Guinevere. Can hand her to me.
Okay.
Use care when passing a saw to another person.
Got it.
What else can I take, Jeff?
Bucking is cutting logs. Every log is different, and every log has something to teach you. Whether you use a chainsaw or crosscut saw, the same principles apply. Situational awareness of the hazards associated with bucking is critical. Before you start cutting, look up, look down, look all around.
As we approach this work site, this looks like a fairly straightforward operation. We're just going to try and drop this tree down into the drainage. Really important not to get too focused on that fact. What we need to do first is take a good look overhead, make sure everything looks okay. From where I'm standing, this looks like a good site. I'm not seeing any problems overhead, but it's really important to make sure that you walk all around the work site so that you don't miss anything. So I'm going to come in here a little farther, take another look around, and oh, look up here. We have an incredible widowmaker. So from maybe at the road, we thought it was a good idea to work on this end of the log. There's no way we're going to work under this. So we'll either work on the other end of the log or we'll just leave this one because this is such an incredible safety hazard.
Analyze each cut carefully before you start. Each bucking situation is different, but they all have inherent risks. Only begin bucking procedures after mitigating hazards in the immediate area, such as spring poles. Begin each cut by positioning your body correctly. Stay clear of the offside where the log might move when you cut it. There are 3 basic cuts: the straight cut, the compound cut, and the offset cut. Removing bark will help keep the saw sharp.
So what I'm going to do is to center my saw exactly where I want it to be. I want it to be in a nice straight up and down plane. I'm just going to guide it. And then I want to try and use all of the blade that I can. It's a waste of energy just to be using a little piece in the center. And sometimes it's a little bit harder to see from the side if the saw is perfectly vertical, but you're a lot better off to be sawing from the side because you can use a good rocking motion from the hips. This is a beautiful cutting saw. You can see really nice chips coming out with it. The objective of this is just to have a slow, easy rhythm. We're not killing snakes. I'm going to keep lubricating this as I go along just because I can feel the pitch in this tree. This is one of those saws that all you have to do is sort of put it in the kerf and it does the sawing.
Binds are directional pressures exerted in different areas of logs. There are top binds, bottom binds, side binds, and end binds. Often a log has more than one kind of bind. Your safety depends on knowing how to read binds. Do not expect to always read binds correctly.
Well, here's our next project. Looks like we got a little top bind on this. It's suspended off the ground, and it looks like we're going to need to do a compound cut on this.
Okay.
You know, we're going to need to move the log away. I think if we do one cut right about here,
Okay.
trying to avoid these big knots, that'll really slow us down. So if we can cut between these knots, and then another cut up in here, you know, to avoid the knots, then we can roll this log out, pivot it on that bush, and it'll be out of our way.
Okay.
Okay, it's already been prepped for us, so we're ready to go. Okay, let's go ahead and start right in. I'm pretty good right there.
I'm clear of knots underneath here.
Okay, I look good here. Let's go ahead and give it a start. Pretty punky log. It's going to be hard to start with all this rotten wood in there. Okay, that kerf's opening up nice. Let's go ahead and put some bark underneath so that our teeth don't hit the ground when things close up here. Got it. There we go. Okay, you clear?
I'm clear.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and roll this under this bush. Okay, clear below.
Well, it looks like we need to cut a few sections out of this one, huh?
Okay.
Well, the first thing I do whenever I'm going to cut a tree is I walk the whole length of it. When I walked down to that end, I saw a root wad lodged in the ground pretty well. I don't think it's going to spring back up on us.
Okay.
And when I walk down to that end, I see that it's suspended on the bank. And it's leaned against this green tree. That could cause some side bind. We won't really know until we watch the kerf as we cut.
Okay.
But I think we'll make our first cut in here. And as we get in a little ways, that top bind is going to cause the kerf to pinch our saw a little bit. What else do you see here?
I guess we just need to talk about our escape routes. We've already looked around and made sure we don't have any aerial hazards. What do you think about escape routes?
Well, I like how we've cleared this out so we can move our feet freely. We'll only have one person nearby when the cut goes through, and I want to be able to take a few steps backward without tripping on stuff.
I think we're ready to start sawing then.
Sounds like it to me. Yeah. You want to get on that side? You're the tall guy.
Everything's relative, right? I'm clear of knots underneath here.
Okay, there are no knots under here.
So what would your choice be? Maybe like 15 degrees off if you could get away with it?
Yeah, but you know, since it's going to drop so far, I'd go on and cut this straight and put our angle in the other side. And this is going to drop enough it shouldn't cause us any trouble. Let's do a little air saw to get it started. Oops. Looks like you're pulling straight. How do I look?
Looks good.
Good. You want a little lube?
That sounds good.
And I usually just lube it right in the cut.
And do we want to be taking as long a stroke as possible?
We sure do. I want to use the whole saw. I like standing beside the saw and pulling it across the front of my body. If you stand behind it, you can't use your legs. Looks like we can get a wedge started.
Okay. And so why do you put the first one in the very center in the top?
Well, I've got the most clearance from the saw that way and the most leverage to hold the kerf open. But once we get a little farther in, I'm going to put them at 10 and 2 o'clock just in case the side bind wants to move the log this way or that and pinch the saw.
Sounds good.
Good. My way.
I'm hearing a little creaking.
I'm hearing a little creaking too. You always got to watch that kerf and keep your ears open. Well, let's go on and tighten that wedge and put in a couple more.
I have the saw.
All right. I'd sure hate to pinch it. That takes the fun out of the day. Well, it looks like we've got a little side bind because the kerf's opening up. I didn't expect that, but That's what you learn as you watch the kerf while you're cutting. I'm going to put in these hanging wedges to try to hold things a little bit still while we cut. Is your kerf opening up too, or is
Yes,
it
it
just
is.
pushing this way? It is.
No, it's
Okay.
mine's opening up also.
All right. What we'll want to watch is make sure there's not a lot of movement and decide which one of us should get out of the way so the other can finish the cut.
Almost looks like your kerf might be a little bit wider than mine.
You know, that's what I'd expect,
Yep.
that tree pushing it this way. You know, I'm going to let you finish this one. I don't really want to stand here with this side bind popping this thing towards me.
And I feel comfortable here because if anything, this end is going to swing out towards you and this end's going to be steady.
Okay. Saw's yours.
Dolly, how much of the saw is coming through?
About 18 inches.
It's really cracking and opening up, but those hanging wedges you put in are really keeping it from rotating.
Well, good. Sometimes when I don't have them, I'll just swing an axe and set the blade across the kerf.
Cool.
Well, let's cut here so we can roll this piece out of the way downhill.
Okay.
But I want it to be able to roll freely that direction, and I want it to be able to drop out. So we'll have to cut a compound angle.
Okay.
Let's put the saw across and line up that compound angle. Now this would be straight across.
Okay.
So first let's orient our angle this way.
Okay.
About like that. And then the second angle we're looking for is this way. So we'll tilt it like that. It's unnatural to hold the handles of a saw angled like that, but we'll just have to remember to do it.
Okay.
You know, I always put in a wedge for good luck. You know, that kerf's starting to open. I think I should probably finish it.
Probably got about 7 inches on my side. I'm going to stop for just 1 sec.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Okay.
All clear? Let's see if we can pivot this a little bit and roll it down the hill.
Make sure no one is down below and shout out a warning before the log rolls. In some cases, you might use a stump as a pivot point to redirect the cut section off a trail.
Well, John, let's take care of this one.
Okay.
I want to cut here, but gosh, maybe let's just do this one-person style. I hate to have anybody downhill from this.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be downhill when you were sawing.
No, I'm going to move the handle up to the other end of the saw. This log just has a little bit of bottom bind because it's hanging out in the air. The compression is on the bottom. It's going to be tension on the top, as I saw. So the cut's going to open up. Shouldn't even need a wedge. And I'm just going to go on and saw right through. The cut's opening up a little bit.
Before the log rolls down the hill, be sure and shout a warning.
Okay, John, we've got this tree here we got to get rid of, and
Okay.
this looks like a pretty complicated one. We got a couple of different binds on it, it looks like,
Uh-huh.
from being wedged between these two trees and then this whole trunk length here.
Okay.
Looks like it's got some side bind,
Okay.
which is looks like it wants to go your way.
Okay.
And these are some of the most dangerous to deal with, I think, because they're pretty unpredictable and they can release faster than we expect.
So we'd have a lot of compression on this side and
Yes.
a lot of tension over here. Okay.
Yes. And so we're going to have to relieve that tension and try to get it to lay down on the ground pretty flat. We also have a lot of top bind on it, so we might have to finish up with an underbuck.
Okay.
But to start this off, you know, we're going to need to cut here first to relieve this, and then come in and probably underbuck. And it's going to want to push your way.
Okay.
It might change as we get farther into the log. Let's make sure that we watch that really close. We're going to have to watch our kerfs real close, make sure we don't pinch on this. A couple other things when I was cleaning this log up, notice we got a spring pole here.
Okay.
We're going to have to get rid of that. That could really come back and hurt us. Got another one right here, and this one's bent over. It's got a lot of tension on it, and we can take one out with an axe and take one out with a saw just for practice.
Okay.
Okay. And
So what are we going to do about escape routes here?
okay, escape routes, you got a nice clear zone behind you.
Okay, so I'll move straight out that way.
Make sure you get far enough in case this rolls that any of these branches over here don't come over and get you.
Okay.
My escape route will be right behind me here. I've got a good clean zone behind me.
Okay.
I'll get into that. Okay, if you want to work on this one, take this spring pole out.
Okay.
I'll get the saw out and we can take this one out with the saw.
I'm just making a bunch of cuts on this underside to relieve this tension. And relieve this compression.
You space those cuts out about every 6 inches.
Uh-huh.
See, I can finish it up with the axe. Okay, I think that's... Let's go ahead and take a few swipes here and see what the tree wants to do. Okay, it doesn't look like the kerf's moving at all. Okay, let's go ahead and roll it up over the top.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just go slow and see how the kerf's working. Okay, it feels...
a little bit of bind in there.
Okay, let's go ahead and take the saw out. Okay, now let's underbuck it.
Okay.
And
You
I'll
got the
take the saw my way. Okay, let's do an offset cut here.
Okay.
But before...
Which side are we going to make our offset into?
Let's go to your left.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and put a couple wedges in here. So let's go about an inch
Okay.
off to the side there. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'm about even.
No, I have a ways to go.
Okay. Okay.
Typically, a log with end bind is lying flat on the ground on a slope. It will be less likely to roll when it is cut. Escape routes still need to be identified. A compound cut will be needed. Usually the first cut is high on the log to reduce weight. This reduces compression on the lower part of the log, but each situation should be assessed carefully. Use wedges as necessary to keep the saw from binding. Axes can also be used to keep the kerf open. Even experienced sawyers can misread binds. They were expecting end bind, but notice the wedges dropping as the kerf opens. This indicates this was in fact bottom bind.
Clear below.
Safety considerations for felling are the same for chainsaws and crosscut saws. Stand back and examine the area. Look at more than the tree you will be felling. Situational awareness is critical for felling. Crosscut saws are quiet, so hearing protection is not required. You can hear what the tree is doing. This is an added safety bonus. Solid trees sound different from rotten trees. Felling requires special training. Certification is based on skill and ability. Sawyers are certified as A, B, or C level. If felling a particular tree looks dangerous, don't cut it. Experienced sawyers know their limits. First, size up the tree. What species of tree is it? Each species has unique characteristics. Some trees may look healthy on the outside, but are rotten on the inside.
Glad it wants to fall on you. It's dropping a little piece.
This is really rotten.
Sounds kind of squishy, huh?
Yeah, I think this tree's too rotten to bring down.
And what would be the biggest problem, Jeff? Just that we don't have any good hinge wood, so we just couldn't direct the fall. Once we cut through, then it's just going to do whatever it wants to do.
Right. The wood's not solid enough to control the tree as it falls, and I just think it's too dangerous to take down right now.
And do we really need to take this tree down?
I don't think under these circumstances we should. I think this tree is too dangerous. We should just flag it off, tell our supervisor what we found, and
Walk away.
walk away from it. Okay, well here's our next project, this ponderosa right here.
Okay.
Yeah, this one with a fork top. It's got
All right.
3 tops on it.
Okay.
I don't see any widowmakers up there. Doesn't look like these branches are intertwined with this tree next to it.
Okay. Would you call that a spike top or a pitchfork, or is there any special name for that?
I'd call that a pitchfork or a 3-top.
Okay.
Spike top's generally when the top's dead and standing up there by itself. On this one here, you can see where there's a dead branch coming out in between.
Right.
That
A little short one.
Yep. Got to watch for that. And all those dead branches look like they're holding on there pretty good. Let's see. Let's take a look at the lean on this. Step back, plumb it up. It's pretty straight up and down from here.
At a distance, plumb the tree at least twice from different locations.
Yeah, it shows that bow in the trunk, but the top's pretty much straight over the
Sitting right over them.
So we've determined the primary lean on this tree. Secondary lean is looking like it still wants to go uphill. From here, it's showing a little bit at side hill. And from here, it's looking back this way. And from here, yeah, so primary lean is putting it up here. Secondary is putting it through here. I think we can just lay it right down through here between these 2 trees. One concern I have here, this is a pretty tall tree. It's going to have a lot of speed coming through these trees. If we get too close to either of these trees, we're going to have a lot of debris flying.
Yep.
There's already
Going to strip a lot of stuff off. There's a lot of dead on that one.
Yep, there's a lot of dead branches up there. This one has a lot of dead branches on it. So that's something we have to be concerned about. You feel comfortable doing that?
Sounds good. You're good. You're good. No sign of any vibration or anything coming out of it, Jeff.
Tree sounds pretty solid. Let's go ahead and take the bark off it and get our face cut figured out. And
Okay. Do you want me to clean out the lay a little bit and work on the escape routes?
Yeah, why don't you walk out the lay?
Okay. We got one, Jeff, we've got one stump here. I think we're going to be down to the side of it a little bit. There's another stump here. There's a pretty good berm of dirt here which may catch it and flip stuff up.
Okay.
Beyond that, there's just a little bit of slash out here.
Yeah.
I might clear a little bit of this out.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and work on the escape routes.
Locate safety zones at least 20 feet away, preferably behind large healthy trees or rocks that will provide protection. Escape routes and safety zones must not be directly behind the tree you will cut.
Looks like a good spot. Nice and safe behind this tree here. Let's go ahead and start removing the bark here.
Okay.
I'm going to take this bark off because it holds a lot of dirt, and with these saws you want to keep them as sharp as possible, as long as possible. So when we take the bark off, that takes all that dirt away. You got nice clean wood and easier to work with. We'll also be able to see the actual wood, see how firm it is, make sure there's no bugs or anything in it.
The horizontal and sloping cuts create the undercut. The direction the tree will fall depends on where you make the first cut, the horizontal one. This cut should be about 1/3 of the tree's diameter.
I'm right on my mark.
Okay, let's go ahead and gun it. So pull it out.
I'm not sure that we're 1/3 of the way through.
Okay. We're looking like we need to go off your way a little bit. You need to take more on your side.
I'm there.
Okay.
The sloping cut is the second part of the undercut. This cut needs to be at about a 45-degree angle. You don't want the undercut to close until the tree is fully committed to your planned direction of fall. While some sawyers use a crosscut saw, more experienced sawyers choose an axe, especially when a tree is extremely pitchy. Also, sometimes space is restricted. The saw handles can't be vertical, or there's no standing room for another sawyer or for the end of the saw.
Gee, it looks to me like we need to clean that maybe a little more on this side where we've got a Dutchman going.
Oh, we left the Dutchman there?
The holding wood is immediately behind the undercut. The sloping cut and the horizontal cut must line up and not cross. When the horizontal and sloping cuts overlap, a Dutchman is formed. The sloping cut must be fixed to remove the Dutchman. If a tree is felled with a Dutchman, the wood can split vertically, creating a hazard called a barber chair when the back cut is made. Felling control will be lost.
So what's happened here is I haven't cleaned this face out enough, left this undercut here, and this is called the Dutchman. And what happens if we do our back cut, and as the tree starts to tip, this will close up and actually pinch on here, which will raise this side of the tree, and then our holding wood will probably fail and we'll lose control of the tree. So what we need to do is get this nice and clean, cut this out so these corners meet really nicely right here, so that that doesn't happen. So I'll get on this side of the tree and finish chopping it out. You got to be careful with this portion. If you cut too far deep into here, you're cutting your holding wood. So you got to be really careful when you get close here so you don't sever those fibers, because that'll change the dynamics of the tree as you fall it. Just clean up this. Let's make sure we're still on line here.
Looks like it's aimed right exactly where you wanted it to go, Jeff.
The final cut needed to fell the tree is the back cut. This cut is important for tree positioning and therefore essential for the safety of sawyers. Both sawyers should envision an imaginary rectangle.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw a box here for you so we know where we're at as we're cutting this over.
That one's out and you need different colors.
And that'll give us our holding wood and our height for our back cut. Okay. My safety zone's down here behind this tree.
Okay.
You're heading that way.
And I'm heading up behind that one. And who's going to take the saw?
If you would take the saw,
Okay.
because I've got this little stump I've got to negotiate around.
Okay.
So if you could take the saw and head your way, And once we start the back cut, let's not get behind the tree. We'll
Okay.
I'll do all the wedging from this side.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're starting the back cut.
Okay, let's get a wedge in there. Okay, ready?
Yep.
About 3/4 of an inch.
Yep, right on. Half an inch.
Yep. Quarter.
I'm right on my line.
Okay, okay, we're good. I'll take my handle up.
Okay.
You want to take the saw? Okay.
Sitting pretty steady.
Tree
It's
coming
committed.
down!
Forward, across the hill!
Oh!
We were expecting we might get a barber chair because of the heavy lean and the small face cut. You can see that half of our holding wood was under compression and half was under tension, and incredible tension. You look at these splinters, and these have been pulled out from the middle of the tree under the tension of this tree wanting to fall. It didn't barber chair though. It fell over just like we wanted, but it left quite a bit of holding wood. What do you think, Jeff? Do you suppose the tree is split up here in the beginning of a barber chair?
I bet you it was really trying hard. If we remove this bark here, I bet you we see a crack that comes quite a ways up this trunk.
Yeah.
It took a lot of force to pull this out. We can see that it's split. Here's a piece of the wood that's split out the side. It was definitely trying to barber chair on us, but it just didn't have the chance.
And in a barber chair, the tree splits off up high and the butt can shoot back or fall unpredictably from the tower of splinters that are left. That's why that's so dangerous. And we brought this down safely because we understood what dangers there were and were anticipating them. So this is the fun part, is looking at how it all worked. It'd be a waste to just walk away from it and not know.
Okay, that's about where the split ends.
Someday even you, as a Class C faller, could cut down this